Welcome everyone to Art Mumbai, especially for those of you where this is your first day. We've had a fantastic day one and day two at the fair. It's been a lot of positive feedback, and I'm happy to see so many of you here, especially for this panel. Very close to all our hearts because today we are speaking about Mumbai. Um, we this panel is so timely because at the moment we find India at a very critical point in time. I think the country as a whole, socially, economically, culturally, is taking its place on the global stage. And Mumbai in particular is very much a vibrant, innovative gateway for the rest of Mumbai, and I think not just the rest of India, I meant to say, but also South Asia. And I think as part of that, there is a tremendous transformative power that the arts provides here. And I think what it lends us really is a soft power that is unparalleled when it comes to any sort of diplomacy we might find. And as the world's focus really begins shifting more and more to India, in some cases away from other Southeast Asian countries or away from China, especially when we talk about economically, I think it's time to really look at how we examine Mumbai's unique blend of tradition and modernity, of some of these contradictions and positions that make Mumbai the very crucible of India's cultural renaissance in contemporary times. I think the global influence that Mumbai wields is considerable. And I think we see that here at this fair. You know, it's 22,000 square meters of art, culture, people, and a lot of energy that the city provides. So I think as we talk about why we're here, what this panel discussion really brings is Mumbai's quintessential cultural catalyst. You know, the creative visionaries, the industry experts, the exploration of how this city is reshaping perceptions, how we foster innovation, and really how we're heralding India's cultural renaissance domestically, but also on the world stage. Whether it's culture, whether it's diplomatic engagement, as I said, but I think for us today, certainly the visual arts and design. I'd like to take a quick moment to say a big thank you to KNMA, the Kiranadar Museum of Art, because they've sponsored our speaker series, and none of this programming would have been possible without them. I would also like to thank Birla Opus, which is our main sponsor, and they've allowed us to be able to construct this auditorium for these 4 days so that we have a quiet place to have some of the conversation and dialogue that is so necessary in today's times. The person leading the panel is the master of dialogue. So I'd like to introduce Asad Lalljee. He's the SVP of the SR Group. He's the CEO of Avid Learning, which is an arts and culture public programming platform. And very importantly, he is the curator of the Royal Opera House, which represents a slice of Mumbai history. He brings several years of experience in advertising, publishing, marketing, and business development experience, spanning global and local markets. And particularly because before relocating to India, Asad worked for 14 years as one of the madmen. He's been part of New York's Madison Avenue advertising mania, if you will. He was with McCann Erickson. But we're lucky to have him here now. In 2018, Asad became part of the FICCI Art and Culture Committee. In 2022, he joined the Kala Ghora Association's Executive Committee, with whom Avid shares a decade-long partnership. And in 2022 and 2023, I quickly dragged him into being part of the advisory board for the Mumbai Urban Art Festival, which is managed by the Start India Foundation. And he represents much of what we are able to discuss about the city, about culture, and about the India that is emerging with our own contemporary identity. So with that, Asad, I'd like to welcome you up. Thank you.
Thank you, Minal, for those kind words. And congratulations to you, Dinesh, and the entire Art Mumbai team for the second edition. I mean, it's gone from strength to strength. I can't just wait for the third edition. Thank you for having me back, and hope you're going to invite me back on the third edition too. Third time's a charm, remember. Um, Good afternoon, esteemed guests. Thank you for joining us. The title of our talk is Gateway to Influence, Mumbai's Cultural Soft Power. I'm just going to take a few minutes to just set up the conversation with some little research that I have done, so bear with me. Cultural diplomacy has been historical practice for nations serving to establish relationships, exchange ideas, assert influence, and express their identity to others. Earlier examples of were exchange of reciprocal gifts by kings, World Fair exhibitions. However, the term cultural diplomacy only gained prominence in the 19th century France with the creation of structures for promoting and exporting French language and culture known as the Alliance Francaise today. It further gained recognition after the Cold War in the 90s. In academic discourse, cultural diplomacy is often closely associated with Joseph Niall's concept of soft power, a term he is credited to coining. Consequently, soft power and cultural diplomacy are sometimes used interchangeably. Cultural diplomacy serves as a means to showcase a nation's multifaceted national identity and reinforce its soft power on a global stage by emphasizing its historical character and accomplishments, contemporary artistic achievements, and cultural heritage. In Mumbai, we have several consulates and their cultural counterparts. We have the Alliance Francaise, we have the Institute of Italian Culture in Mumbai, and we have the Goethe Institute Max Muller. Countries often assess the success of cultural diplomacy through metrics such as increased participation in cultural exchanges, favorable media coverage, enhanced intercultural comprehension, and the establishment of enduring international alliances. As we gather here today in the heart of Mumbai, it's worth reflecting on the extraordinary role a city plays in shaping the narrative of India on the global stage. It is a force of persuasion rather than coercion, and in the context of 20th, 21st century, it is arguably more vital and important than ever. To give you a sense of scale, let's look at some key facts. The global GDP is 105 trillion, India's GDP 4.11 trillion, Mumbai's is 140 billion. The world's population 8.2 billion, India being one of the most is the most populous nation in the world with 1.5 billion people. Mumbai's population is estimated to be 22 million, making it one of the most densely populated urban cities in the world. The global creative economy is 985 billion. India is 36.2 billion. Unfortunately, we don't have the exact matching stats for Mumbai for that time frame. So, and these are from I think Niti Aayog. Yes. A prominent symbol of Mumbai, the Maximum City, is the iconic PMC building with its grand arches, intricate motifs, and the imposing domes. Atop the gable is a statue of a winged figure holding up a ship, symbolizing Mumbai's role as Urbs Prima in Indus, the first city of India, a reflection of its historical position as the gateway to the world. Mumbai's GDP is projected to grow from 140 billion to 300 billion by 2030, positioning it as a vital economic engine not only for India but the entire world. Mumbai is a city of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Globally, there are 1,223 World UNESCO sites. India has 40. Mumbai has 3. We have the Elephanta Caves. We have the Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, also known as VT. And we have the Victoria Gothic and Art Deco ensemble. Mumbai is a city of museums, to name a few. The Dr. Bhaudaji Lad, established in 1842, the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Sangrahalaya, that celebrated its centenary in 2022, the National Gallery of Modern Art, established in 96, the National Museum of Indian Cinema. But what is interesting is to see the new museums opened, if it moves, So, opened in 2023, you have the Museum of Solutions. And as if anyone was here in the panel before, the Paradox Museum opened last month. It is India's first place of the interaction where art, science, and illusion collide. Bombay is a city of cultural spaces. Mumbai is home to multidisciplinary cultural spaces with global outlooks and a vision to foster and promote Indian arts. These spaces offer world-class infrastructure for experimentation, exploitation, and creativity. They include the Prithvi Theatre, the also newly opened NMACC, the National Centre of the Performing Arts, and I think my favorite, the Royal Opera House. But Mumbai is also home to newly opened spaces, the Sarmaya. So Pavitra is going to be joining with us shortly, and she's going to be sharing more information on this. And then we also have the Chanakya Cultural Center. Mumbai is a city of galleries, as evident at the fair, with a robust ecosystem of art galleries and programs like Art Night Thursday and the annual Mumbai Gallery Weekend. Mumbai is also a city of festivals, and to name a few, we have the Kalagura Arts Festival, which is going to be completing 25 years in January. We have the Literature Live, which is happening concurrently as we speak, is celebrating 15 years. Minal mentioned the Mumbai Urban Arts Festival had finished 2 editions, and we have the wonderful Art Mumbai at the 2nd edition. Mumbai is a city of cinema, one of the largest film industries in the world. With filmmaking history going back to 1913, Hindi film industry now stands at the cultural juggernaut, producing over 2,000 films each year, many of which are distributed internationally, carrying with them culture, values, and stories of India. It employs 4 million people and contributes to 15.6 billion to India's media and entertainment industry. Mumbai is a city of fashion. Mumbai gained international recognition as a gateway for Indian fashion, and a status recently highlighted is when Dior presented its fall 2023 show at the Gateway of India in collaboration with the Chanakya School of Craft. It's been the birthplace for many fashion weeks, including Lakme Fashion Week, providing a dynamic platform for Indian designers celebrating creativity, craftsmanship, and cultural heritage. We are a city of food. Images courtesy Pavitra. Mumbai's gastro diplomacy brings the world on your platter. It's a melting pot of cultures, traditions, and cuisines, from Parsi, Goan, Maharashtrian specialties to gourmet experiences influenced by Asian, European, and Middle Eastern. And the last slide, I promise. Mumbai's coastline has long been the source for inspiration, resilience, and renewal. A city by the sea. The city's relationship with the sea speaks to its role as a gateway of diverse ideas, peoples, cultures, and its welcoming influence while staying rooted in its unique identity. From ancient trade routes to modern day exchanges, the sea shapes Mumbai's character as an outwardly looking city with a rich, layered history. Mumbai, often called as the maximum city, a city that embodies ambition, reinvention, cultural capital, where historical monuments stand beside skyscrapers and where streets pulse with creative energy, contributing to a constant evolving urban landscape. The key question we aim to explore today, as Mumbai continues to bolster India's global influence, what pivotal role will art, design, and culture play in strengthening this narrative? To answer these pertinent questions, we dive deeper into the multidimensional soft power of Mumbai, and we have with us 2 phenomenal global ambassadors of the city. Please join me in welcoming founder and creative director, Pavitra Rajaram Design, Pavitra Rajaram, creative director, Chanakya International and Chanakya School of Craft, Karishma Swali. I'm going to ask them to set the stage up before I continue my discussion. While they do that, I'll continue talking. My father used to say I like the sound of my own voice. Apparently, it's true. You know, I'm actually very excited to be in conversation with Pavitra and Karishma, because these are 2 people whose work I've admired for many years. And with my Avid hat on, we've had many, many collaborations over the years and hope to continue these. So super excited. And this is the most I'm not reading out their bios because I think most people know them, but I want their work, what I'm going to talk to them, kind of explain who they are. So, thank you. You can do this. Chalo, let's still have ice. Then, ice. Pause. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. Anyway, Pavitra, I'm going to start with you. Given Mumbai's deep rooted history as an economic gateway, how would you describe its evolving relationship in context with India as a cultural gateway? You've collaborated with Jaipur Rugs to present a Majnu collection at the Salon des Mobiles in Milan, showcasing the diverse weaving traditions of India, China, Afghanistan. You've previously emphasized the importance of recognizing India's diversity in design. In the realm of cultural soft power, how important is it for Mumbai and by extension India to exemplify its rich cultural diversity? And what avenues would you allow these stories to resonate with international communities?
What a great question, Asad. And thank you for having me. And of course, I'm a great fan of what you do, and I'm a great admirer of Karishma's work. So lovely to be here. And thank you all for listening to us. I think it's a really interesting question that you ask. And I think the reality is that a culture such as ours, which is steeped in oral tradition, our narrative has essentially been through the softer world or soft power, as you refer to it, which is really our cultural language. So whether it's music or dance or theater or design or even the everyday objects that populate our life, that's how we've told stories historically, not just about what we do, but who we are. So, to my mind, it's critical for the creative community to be part of the if you will, the display of power by a nation, and Bombay sits right at the heart of it. I think we've taken some time to get to this because I think we went through a period of evolution where our natural dominance in terms of inspiring the world, whether it was through the ideas we shared, whether it was through the ways in which we celebrated other aspects of culture and design. I mean, many ideas come to mind. Jahangir and his patronage of sort of European artists in his court, for example. I think what happened is with colonization, we went from being creators to being created. Our identity was re-scripted in a somewhat one-dimensional way, in a linear sort of way. And I think what is absolutely exciting, and what an amazing time to be a creative person in Bombay, in Mumbai. But now, because I think finally we have the economic wherewithal, we have the power of numbers, there's so many of us, and we have the creative confidence to start reasserting our Indian identity. And I mean our really multi pronged identities, whether it is regional, whether it's cultural, whether it's gender. We're far more empowered today to tell these stories. And I think what is incredible is that by instinct, we're telling these stories the way that they've been told thousands of years on the subcontinent. So we're telling them through embroideries, through color, through architecture, through music, through poetry, through form. And I believe very strongly that we are reasserting ourselves on a global stage through this diplomacy, if you will, which is rooted in experience, which is not a linear story, because India's story has never been linear, but which is a story that's built in feeling, in emotion, in touching something, in experiencing something, in owning something even. And I think we more and more have gravitated. We have the confidence now, economically, politically, and of course, creatively, to start telling our own stories.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I'm going to come back to a couple of those points later. Karishma, at the Chanakya School of Craft, you focus on empowering women who are from the underserved backgrounds. They become skilled artisans, and then you present their work globally. Chanakya's international participation at the Venice Biennale, collaborations with many artists from around the world, even the French artists that we had a conversation with. Your contributions have earned you, now pardon my French, the Chevalier d'Ordre du Mérite. Close? Woo. Congratulations. How does your work engage with or reflect the transformation of Mumbai's urban and cultural landscape? And can you just share your thoughts on how you foster these successful international collaborations, taking Indian craft and textile heritage to prestigious global platforms? And it's not a new thing, it's been sustained over maybe a generation, right?
Thank you for that, Asad, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening to us today. Um, I think about, as a starting point, what we've inherited as a country and how incredibly fortunate we are to have inherited this cultural heritage collectively, and how it really is part of our collective identity. And I think this kind of sows the seeds of all our collaborations. The Chanakya School of Craft was born first to be able to celebrate and preserve this cultural identity, this incredible artisanal breadth that we have across so many genres. And I think it's unparalleled. There's really no other country in the world that is where these living traditions exist, where one has access to this infinite, almost breadth of artisanal genres. So to preserve some of these, to celebrate them, and through education, through innovation, through exchange and collaboration. So I think right from the beginning, the importance of exchange for us has been one of our pivotal, guiding sort of stones. And therefore, we always wanted it to be a global dialogue. If you think about India and how across centuries it's been a place, an inspiration destination, so to say. And while we might be a very ancient civilization, we are a very young country, and there is this confusion sometimes. And so, when sometimes there's this great hurry to sort of position ourselves globally, I remind myself that we're a young country, we're at the beginning of something incredible and unique to the world, but we have a long way to go. But our roots are incredibly deep, and so our horizons can be that much wider. I think this is what guides us, and this idea of being able to celebrate who we are, discover who we are through that celebration. And yes, that's why we continue to do what we do.
Thank you. Congratulations on that. And, I'm going to come back to the part of India inspiring the world. I have a whole section on that. Pavitra, coming back to you, you've been an advocate for sustainability and design, and we've done many, many panels on that in the past. And you worked on projects like Katran, which repurposes fabric waste into furniture. This project reflects a growing awareness of sustainability in Mumbai design community. How can Mumbai lead the conversation on sustainability in the design space, both nationally and internationally?
Well, Mumbai is the commercial center of our country. And almost everything that happens, export, import, to a great extent, trade, collaboration, conversation, happens in and around our city. And I think one of the realities of our cities is that, and Mumbai in particular, is that we produce so much for consumption. And whenever you produce for consumption, the other side of that is waste, right? Because there is a side of consumption which is the rejection of things which are of lesser quality. There are things that are sampling processes. Karishma, I'm sure you're familiar
We
with
all
this
grew
as
up going to
well.
Fashion Street to shop, so let's start with that.
Exactly. So I think it's an amazing challenge for designers, and I think it's one that all of us should be thinking about, and that's where Katran originated actually, which is to say that look, we produce so much for the rest of the world, and we should. And the reason why the world comes to us, like the reason the world comes to Karishma, is because you're producing at the highest level of skill in the world. This has nothing to do with price. It has nothing to do with easy access. It has nothing to do with any of that. It is that the quality of what you're producing and the manner in which you're doing it is unparalleled globally. So when you have that kind of situation, I think it's also a responsibility to us to see how we can amplify conversation and dialogue around what gets left behind. Very often, when in our country, when you create things for export, let's say you're working with a big, let's say an upholstery, a fashion house, or an upholstery, atelier in Europe, they sample so much in India. And so you may end up sampling 20, 30, 40 things, and they'll end up buying 10 or 12 things. But very often you're bound by confidentiality, you're bound by contract to continue to hold on to all of the stuff that you sample that didn't actually get picked up. And what we don't realize is in Bombay itself, whether you're in all of the centers that we work, whether it's the leather industry, whether it's the textile industry, glass, I mean, there's so many. What ends up happening is all of that um, doesn't have a place to go. A lot of it ends up in landfill. Many of them just rot. Textile samples, for example, just sit there and age and rot over months and months. And finally, they are dumped in garbage dumps or in large landfills. And very often, they impact the air quality, the sustainability of livelihood, the environment for other human beings in our city. So I think for designers to engage with what happens to some of the byproducts of commerce, um, particularly in Bombay, is absolutely critical. And I think you've been doing some amazing things, and I think it'll be lovely for you to actually talk about them rather than me. But I think people like Karishma have taken the lead in thinking about this as a whole 360, an ecosystem, and more people in Bombay are doing that. There are a lot of designers I know who are working with converting paper pulp from fabric that's left behind, working with garbage and recycling, working with plastics and regeneration of plastic and creating design and beauty out of that. And I think what Bombay allows you to do is to experiment. Because there's something about this city that feeds a sort of creative freedom. And I do think, I mean, obviously I'm biased, I live and work in this city, but I do think that we in India, in Bombay in particular, tend to be very open to collaboration and conversations.
Speaking of collaboration, I'm going to just move to Karishma really quickly. You're in the process of setting up a new international residency project, and you're collaborating with not Indian, but Italian, Japanese artisans and some collectives. Do you want to just share a little bit about this? And what do you think that's going to do for brand India or make in, I was saying make in India, but I said make in Mumbai sounds cooler.
So two things really. A huge part of the preservation exercise is being able to create a new language, right, to keep it relevant for the future generation, a fresh lens, a contemporary lens. And I think when young artists, are allowed to come and explore and have the knowledge of a great foundation of techniques, archives, they're really able to have a more future forward way of messaging. Because for me, in the end, art serves a great purpose of being able to take forward a global message. We spoke about waste earlier, and one of the things that I think is so intrinsic to India is that we've inherited a zero waste sort of DNA, right? If you look back into, quilting, or so many of these art forms are essentially creating a new language from waste, right? People took scraps of fabrics and told their stories on through kantha on them, and so we've inherited this most incredible wisdom, and I feel giving access to the newer generations is a big part of being able to tell a new story, and to tell it with a lens that is relevant. So this is what the base of our artist residency is really this: to be able to open up what we have as a country, to be open. It needs to be a process of exchange, of learning, and to be able to create a future that is just diverse and inclusive.
And why Japan? What's with the Japanese collaboration that you?
I think we have an intrinsic common set of values, and so many ways that we have created things in the same way. I mean, if we look at fabrics, let's look at the Jamdani, Odisha or Gujarat, and then you have the same yarn dyeing methods in Japan, as ancient as ours. I think also the set of values to be able to do things with collective respect and harmony. I find that it's beautifully done in Japan.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
It's interesting if I could just add anecdotally that India and Japan are two cultures that engage very much with the color white. So in India, of course, famously we have from the Vedas 5 shades of white described through our relationship to nature and also to craft, and the Japanese have the same. So I think you're absolutely right that there is a commonality of culture. I always think of it as two ends of the funnel. We are the wide open mouth and they are the distillation. And between those two exists a world of commonality.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. But, Pavitra, the way we consume culture, luxury, design has changed. It's become a more holistic experience. The panel earlier spoke about that. Museums by default now have one, immersive component. It's not a tick off, but this is the way people are consuming things. I just read a very interesting article in the New York Times this week that the L'Oreal has signed a 3-year agreement with the Louvre to take people on walks, because what they're trying to do is teach people about beauty through art, through artworks. Today's paper, alcohol brand Taps Art, Dom Perignon has signed up with an artist to engage with younger people. The Kusuma Louis Vuitton collaboration we all know about. You've embarked on a very interesting collaboration with Asian Paints. Do you want to share some information on that? Since this will be the first time you're talking about it in public. Or are you allowed to? We can sign an NDA.
Well, it's ironic that I'm sitting on a Birla Opus panel and talking about Asian paints, but what the hell? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that, all crafts, all creative endeavor requires patronage. And historically, of course, patronage was with those who had command over wealth and geography, the Maharajas and the rulers. And today, that role has been taken by modern corporates. And it seems to me perfectly logical that this would happen. And I think what is amazing in India is that all of these big corporate entities, from the Birlas, from the Tatas to the Birlas to Reliance, and to Asian Paints, have all chosen to take a position to protect, to conserve, and to be patrons of art and design and culture. And as design director of Asian Paints, I've been working on a very interesting project. It's taken the better part of my life in the last 3 years, which is to create a global platform of craft, but craft at the cusp of experience and not consumption. I think what we're trying to say, I mean, like you talked about teaching young people to take a walk, I think what we want to say is that it's not about consuming, it is about experiencing and feeling things. I always say that design should be savored and not devoured. And what we tried to do is to build a whole experiential space, 100,000 square feet in the middle of this city, which itself is a statement on Bombay and its relevance with soft power, but also to create a space where the intersection of art, craft, experience, and culture can come together seamlessly. Yeah, so fabulous new project.
Wonderful. Congratulations. We can't
Thank
wait
you.
for that. Hopefully, we don't have to wait for next Art Mumbai to go on a walk for that as we had to wait for Sarmaya. But hey, we'll come to that later. Karishma, Mumbai fashion industry has made waves on the international platform. Designers like Rahul Mishra, Gaurav Gupta are showcasing on the Oscars. We have Wack outside. His jewelry was worn by, I don't know, some celebrity. Chanakya's collaboration with Dior has elevated Indian craftsmanship to another whole, among others. I know you collaborate with others. So, what role do global platforms and influential figures play in shaping Mumbai's cultural soft power and fashion? And how can we leverage more of these international creative collaborations?
So again, for us, really the base and foundation of being able to celebrate what we have is just to find ways that the future generation is invested. And so the project that we had with Dior is something that was almost 10 years in the making. We wanted to find ways for us, to be honest, it was less strategic and more personal. It was a personal way to pay homage to two artists and artisanal legacies, and to be able to recognize India, Bombay, as truly having the best possible artisanal abilities that the world has. And it needs to be something that's not only recognized globally, but also understood, celebrated, patronized, all of that. So I think at the heart of these collaborations or celebrations is being able to share with a wider audience the importance of really recognizing this global heritage.
And you've also got the ball rolling for many other designers to follow suit and follow these things on an international platform. It's very interesting because years ago you used to think of India as this outsourcing BPO. Even for the karigari work, we knew that the stuff was coming, but no one spoke about it, right? I mean, all your friends were working. I knew, in these spaces. Shamina Talwar Khan was used to work in it for years, but no one really spoke about it. And it was really now that India is getting the spotlight that it deserves, thanks to
But I give a
people
lot of
like
credit to people like Anita Lal. When she set up
fabulous.
Good Earth in January of 1996, the whole idea was to say, why are the finest Indian products not available to Indians, that you can only buy it overseas? And I think she started with that mission to create a context for beauty and for quality that we understood and appreciated, and that was meant for us. And I've had the privilege of working with her for many, many years and learning from her, and she's absolutely iconic. And I remember being with her in a trade fair now about maybe 15 or so years ago, and we had a meeting with Hermes, and they said, we love what you do, we love the tableware, and we'd love to be able to do something and collaborate with you, but the thing is we can't put the made in India label on it, and what we'll have to do is we'll figure out how to work with you, but of course it'll be presented as, and that's absolutely fine for them to want to present it as their own branding. But I think how amazing of her, and to me, that is courage and that is leadership. She said, I'm happy to always put made in India, and anyone who wants to come to India and buy it will always be able to. So I think it's people like her who've created the platform for people like us.
Right.
And I think we all exist in a continuum. And I think as a designer who's been working now for 25 years, my dream and my belief is that younger designers, many people in this room, will actually continue from where we are and elevate it and take it to even greater heights.
I remember you did something with the VNA or some, which was VNA, which was pretty incredible. And I think you'll have open stores in Dubai, if I'm not mistaken, just lately. Pavitra, you spoke about slow design. I'm shifting gears now, and the importance of thoughtfully engaging with material process. Now, Mumbai, on the other hand, is this fast-paced city that never sleeps. Everything is frenzied out here. How can the principle of slow design be integrated into Mumbai's design and craft sectors, and what impact would it have on a global level?
I mean, I think the first thing with slow design is to kind of separate design from consumption, and understand that there's a need for both. We have to consume, and that's part of the global economy that we're a part of. But design itself can be incubated in beautiful ways. I think that's certainly Paul's intention with Sarmaya, my husband, Paul Abraham.
We're coming to that.
Runs his own arts foundation. But I think the endeavor is to create spaces where designers, creative people can pause. Because to pause, you need an environment that fosters that. It's like what she's done with the Chanakya school, right? You have to create that crucible or that space where people can come together and engage and step off that treadmill and take those 2 seconds to think. I mean, I always say 2 things. I always say that if you're a designer, what we do is a practice. It's not a business. It's not a firm. It's like yoga. You come every day and you do what you've done and you try to get better and better at it. So if you treat anything as a practice, it requires space and time. And I think what Bombay does do and foster, and again, there are corporates who are involved in this, and Asad, you've been part of so many such amazing programs, is to create that platform, to create that engagement, to offer those opportunities for people to step outside of the daily grind of consumption. Mm-hmm. So not that you replace that, because if you say, listen, you don't be concerned with rosy roti and making money, then, I mean, then you have to be a queen or a king to do anything with design. But to say that consumption is one thing, it's critical. So create value there, fair price, fair trade, all of that. But more importantly, incubate, inspire, and give people space.
Thank you. We've been working a lot through my other hats on the creative industry policy, because the whole thing is once you have to legitimize the arts as not some hobby, something to feel good. It is actually a serious revenue generator. And unfortunately, our research is not as sophisticated, the ones available in the West. But the amount of money that the creative industries puts into the economy is, I threw some figures out earlier, but if you look at, Durga Puja, the pandals, I mean, British Council has done a report on that. It is pretty significant, and that's how you're going to try and explain to people that these are important things. They're not just for, your soul. Karishma, I'm just going to go back to you. You said craft occupies an honored space, proving to be more unifying than human relationships than the spoken language. In what sense has craft served as a unifying force for Bombay's diverse cultural landscape?
I think in craft, in so many ways, is a container, right? It's a container of our culture. If we look at Kutch in Gujarat, where I come from, every village celebrates who they are, their identities through the motifs and emblems and symbols and colors through their craft. You can clearly tell, an ahir from a mochi. And so for India, it's been a way of telling your story, your collective story. And in so many ways, it transcends language. You're able to celebrate a shared culture through craft. And so it's incredibly powerful. It's the second largest economy in the country. In so many ways, it's a way for people to express themselves daily. And so I look at it as a medium that is democratic, very powerful, and something that's so unique to us as a country.
And speaks about the India story globally. I just thought of
I think one other thing, honestly, is that craft is so absolutely linked to geography. And therefore, it transcends language because it goes to the very root of where we come from, right? She talked about coming from Kutch. My ancestry is from Pudukkottai, which is in the deep heart of South India. And where we come from is linked to the rivers. Craft is inextricably linked to local materials, stonework, dyeing, even your pigments for painting, for textile dyeing. So it is a language, it's so beautifully, she said it, it transcends the spoken word because we wear our culture, we eat our culture, we live our culture every day through that expression, and that is craft.
And from the global perspective, I mean, we don't have anyone film on the panel, but I set up some film parameters upstairs. And I remember when I was in New York, because that's how people know India, is through what they see. And when I first reached New York, they told me, Asad, when you're getting married, we want to come to India for a monsoon wedding. I said, no one gets married in the monsoon. When I was leaving, they said, Asad, we thought of you yesterday. Why? I was Slumdog Millionaire. I said, why did you think of me? And I'm from Bombay, so I was very offended by these two analogies. So you do have a little misrepresentation happening. But so, Pavitra, do you want to quickly tell us about this phenomenal new Sarmaya space that you have just opened? I mean, Sarmaya has existed for a few years in the online and doing events, and we've collaborated also in the past. And I'm very, I have major FOMO that I didn't come yesterday, but I hope you're going to invite me back again.
One of the privileges of being married to someone who keeps doing something in the arts is you kind of get first dibs at the exciting projects that come up. So this is really my husband Paul's dream, which was to set up an archive for the arts in Mumbai and to specifically look at a space that welcomes communities that may not otherwise get a chance to access the museum world. And I think it's been a long dream of his, 40 years from when, as a young boy, he first sort of started to engage with historical objects, to now a beautiful archive that we just sort of threw open for the first time yesterday. The team at Pavitra Rajaram Design was very privileged to work on this space. It's a 150-year-old building, and we chose it with purpose because we thought if you don't renew and reuse old spaces, then that too is a form of, waste. And so we got this derelict second floor of the Lawrence and Mayo building on historic DN Road. The Sarmaya collection has some beautiful photographs from the late 19th century of this. And I think Paul's dream has been to really create a space where people can engage not just with objects and histories, but also with their own personal identities and journeys and storytelling. And this idea of storytelling being at the core of not just personal identity, but our identity as Mumbaikars and our identity as Indians. And I think our dream with the Sarmaya space is to throw it open to engagement that goes beyond commerce or profit or consumption, and really let it become a crucible, a space in the city for people to pause and come together to share histories, to explore the diversity and the beauty of our country through objects, and to dialogue about India's place in the world in the 21st century. So, very lofty kitchen table conversations in our house, but a long-standing dream. And I think Paul is very proud and ready to open doors and collaborate with everyone soon.
Hopefully my
Congratulations,
invitation
Paul
is in the
Pavitra.
mail, huh?
For sure. The beauty about Sarmaya is that the doors are never closed, so no invitation is necessary. We wanted it to be a place that you could just walk into. And imagine wandering into a space and being able to hold in your hand a coin that Noor Jahan last held.
And not leave with it, right?
Well, for that he's a banker, so he's put in very heavy duty cameras and all that. So there's no return present of a Noor Jahan coin, but there is the ability to come and engage with objects firsthand. And we saw that yesterday. We saw how moved people were to come. And, Paul had put out the first time a coin, Akbar coin, which had the first time in our history that the word rupiah was on a coin, and people were so moved to hold that. A beautiful fud textile, a ceremonial Gujarat textile from 100 years ago, and these are difficult to acquire because they are, put into the they're put into the Pushkar Lake when their ceremonial use is complete. So there are parts of our own history and our own culture which we don't have access to, and the hope is that through Sarmaya we dialogue, and we create a collaborative, safe space where we can look to the past but also look to the future.
Wonderful. And Karishma, I know you did the walk. You had opened up your the Chanakya school last year for a walk, and I have been there. At least I can say, and it's such a moving experience to see these artists, especially these women from underserved backgrounds, actually becoming these kick-ass karigars and actually making more money than their husbands. And actually, it was quite a moving experience. But, we're sitting now in the second edition of Art Mumbai, in promoting. It's got about 70 plus galleries from across India, South Asia, and the world. And with Art Mumbai becoming an annual event, I'm sure by the success of the second edition, how do you look at the position of this maximum city to become the go-to destination for high caliber international arts engagement? I know last year, before your India Art Fair, had the pleasure and privilege of being in conversation with you, with the French Cameroonian multidisciplinary artist Barthomelo Tugo. I'm pronouncing his name right again. How are we going to ensure that Mumbai is the place, because our soft power, that people come to and rely on?
Probably.
I think historically Mumbai has always been this melting pot, right, of cultures, of interdisciplines, and it's incredibly open. We have 3,500 villagers that still come into the city daily and find their dreams, right, and it's been open to these people across time, and it's become our inherent DNA. It's no surprise it's the financial capital. We have the RBI here, we have the stock exchange here, and and somehow through business and commerce as well, there is a spirit that's so Mumbai, right? There is a sense of professionalism, if I may say, that is unique to Mumbai. There's a never say never spirit that we all have, and we've seen it through adversity as well. We've seen it during the riots. We've seen the spirit of the city just effortlessly emerge whenever it calls. There's a call for it, and so I'm very, very certain that this openness, this DNA, and this diversity that we all live with so effortlessly is bound to be a fertile space for times to come.
In my second slide I showed we have many consulates in Mumbai. Then I went on to say, so if you take France as an example, you have the Alliance Française. But I think what is also very interesting, and I started working with them lately, so I've understood what they actually do, is their chambers of commerce, the Indo-French chambers of commerce. And they've realized that India is the place to be. And if you remember the conference I invited you all to, which we did at the Opera House, they are looking to put or helping bring, and bringing the matchmakers, or as I call the Seema aunties, bringing people together on creative. In fact, I think there was a French creative exchange happening this weekend in Soho House. But I think they are also responsive. So yeah, do we have time? How much time do I have? I know we need to open it up to questions, but I need a few more. Anybody know? Because I know we started late. All right, I'll keep going. Just one thing, which actually is a question which Pavitra and Karishma, I'm sure, will be able to answer. It's very interesting to see. We are in an art fair, but we in the last month and a half, we had 3 design fairs in Bombay. We had the AD show, which has been around forever. We had the El Deco, I can't remember what it's called, show. And we had this new, really cool Design Mumbai show, which I walked through on Saturday. Fantastically produced, high-end. But walking through that, I could have been in Miami, I could have been in Milan, or I could have been in Mumbai. What I was seeing was this globalization of a design aesthetic. I mean, I barely saw a good earth wannabe out there. But what does this say about global soft power and design? If everything starts, I know it's a fuming question, but be nice. It's a question. How much time do I have? Oh, only? You still need 1 minute. So you did take. Okay, done.
So, maybe
Do you
I'm
agree
a little,
with me?
I think I'm a little bit of an auntie now. I'm owning my auntiedom and saying that, I find this sort of globalized homogenization a bit terrifying. Um, I think that there's room for all of us. And I think what is beautiful is that each of us sings or speaks in our own voice. So personally, uh, I'm far more interested and excited by what young designers are doing, whether it's at the art fair or whether it's the design fairs, how Indian designers and global designers are pushing away the we and they. I mean, the art fair has beautiful work by designers from the UK, I mean, artists from the UK who work in the miniature tradition. For example, the design fair had Indian artists who were showcasing their work in Italy. So I think that's more exciting, where you don't lose the essence and core of who you are, but you become a little bit more agnostic to this idea of us and them, we and they, east and west, because at the end, we are all Rasikas. So that's what it's all about.
Karishma, any thoughts on being a Rasika? No. All right, I'm going to start wrapping up. And Zoya, we have to do audience questions, right? Oh, damn, stop.
Hi.
This is my last question to you all before I open it up to audience questions. So, looking forward towards the horizon, if each of you could design one single cultural moment or project, and it can't be Sarmaya, that captures Mumbai's essence for the world, one that would redefine the perception and open new dialogues, what would that be?
I think if I think about one project that sort of stands for our collective identity, it might be something that allows us to connect the dots between the past, the present and the future, and to have a space that is able to connect our museums to more contemporary spaces and an open dialogue that really invites artists to come in for residencies, is able to allow conversations that propel a new India, a more inclusive art space.
I've always firmly believed that, in India, in Bombay, privilege is on the y axis, but opportunity is at the x axis. So I would love to do something in the space of public engagement for the migrants who come into the city every single day, the children of migrants who make Bombay home. I would love to do a public interest or art program on the beaches, or create spaces where those of us who come to Mumbai for the first time feel from day one that this is home.
Wonderful. Sarmaya
That
2.0.
sounds so fantastic.
Do we have any questions for the audience? Usha.
Then you put it.
Usha, be kind, huh?
Usha has a question.
Asad, I think you read my mind about being kind, because I was about to not be not kind, but there are so many things Pavitra said and you said that was so upbeat and so positive. A question I feel I'm missing something, okay? Because the picture is far from complete. And I think some of the basic questions that we have to ask, Pavitra started by saying, having a sense of who we are. How many of us have that sense? I don't know. I think that's fallen by the wayside to some extent. Of course, there are people like Karishma. This morning I was at Rushad Shroff's studio, and I think he's an outstanding designer, because you said something about everything become homogeneous. With him, it doesn't. He takes the craft, he takes the material, and 1 + 1 becomes something else. So that is what we need to see more of. And I think that all of this effort on individual part of individual people and all. I'm just asking, how much momentum can it have without government support?
Without
Government support.
So, the who we are question, Usha, is very pertinent. And I think we were chatting earlier. A lot of it really has to do with recognizing that while we are an extremely ancient civilization, we're a very new country. And you think about the generations of today and you think about, them taking time to find themselves. And that's absolutely fine. I think we are all finding ourselves. But what's possibly more important is beginning to care to sort of educate yourself within your interests of really what the histories are and what the possibilities are today, and being able to really invest in allowing it to nurture right over time. And you think about artist practices, like you said, Rushad, he does such a fantastic job of recognizing, place, history, geography, and making sure he looks at it through a contemporary lens. His signature, who he is in there. But I think it's fair that it takes its time.
I have a slightly different view, Usha. India has probably the worst record of philanthropy in the world, and I'm married to someone who spends all his money doing things in the public interest. And I know how hard it's been for him to do things and put things together, and the kind of support you get from private individuals, forget the government. So and as someone who's worked in and spends, still continues to work with a lot of people outside of urban, I know we're talking about Bombay, but outside of sort of the metropolis, there have been huge things that have been done, simple things, but big things. For example, weaver dyeing centers now, or craft centers where if you have a problem, your loom has broken down, or you've dyed with a particular color and something's happened, where you can reach out to, where there's support. So I think it's not black and white. It's not that the government is doing nothing. I think the government has done some things that are great. They've not done some stuff. And that's true of private individuals as well. So I would ask the question and say that if we're all so concerned about our identity and, our representing ourselves, then why don't we be a lot more conscious about promoting, supporting, and patronizing Indian design? Why is it that we only feel, and maybe this is my point of view, so I don't want to ruffle any feathers in the room, but we feel that an Indian designer is of value only once they've shown in Milan. I was doing design for 30 years, and then after I showed a collection in Milan, suddenly everyone was very interested in what I was doing. So to some extent, I think we should call it for what it is. I think we're a country of 1.5 billion. I think there's a lot that we could do as private individuals. There's a lot that we can do as corporate entities. And there's a lot that we can do as the government. And of course, the cynicism and the fatigue exists, which I feel it, you feel it, we all feel it. But with that cynicism and fatigue is also a change in the continuum, a change in the opportunity, the fact that we now have these conversations more openly. So maybe the change isn't happening at the exponential rate that we would like to see. But is there a shift? I think there is.
Just to add to her, apologize. My first question was about Milan. I know your background from many years. But there are so many change makers like Pavitra, like Karishma, like Rushad, even from a younger generation, are doing some wonderful work. They're getting recognized slowly. So as it's not a mass, but that makes us all proud to live in this city. I mean, we all are choosing to live in the city. We've made choices consciously to live here. Can we just pass the mic? There are a few hands that.
Yes,
Quickly.
sure. But is there just one thing I can say? Exactly what you said, Pavitra. The positive things that are happening. I'm sorry, but my personal view, and again, I don't want to ruffle feathers, but I am outspoken, is that things are moving very, very slowly. For a country of 1.5 billion, how many tourists do you get? I mean, there are 100 questions where we are so sluggish that, yes, I'm expressing a little impatience.
Cultural tourism is a big push.
It's a big, very easy.
But the answer possibly lies in a hybrid model, right, of public and private. And thankfully, we see more moving in the direction
But-
of this hybrid model.
Just one second, Amit. Just to add to it, the government is also doing their part slowly, not what they should be doing, but even from a tourism perspective, from a cultural industries perspective, we've been involved with many of these conversations in the past.
To speak. After the dispute.
We used to be.
After the producing my initiative, like,
Good point, but we have private initiatives that have taken us there.
I'm saying that's what there's some reason, but not the reasons that it should recognize some about it.
Absolutely.
Point taken.
Absolutely.
Amit?
Yeah, I mean, I could completely resonate with the emotions and the anger and frustration I see in Pavitra's heart right now. We talked about cultural economy. Bombay itself, which is a financial hub, and an economic power and soft and hard power, there is a huge divide between rich and poor. I think what Pavitra is trying to get and what Karishma and you were talking about is how cultural economy and how creative economy can bridge that gap. And that is very, very critical.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's exactly what we were saying last week as well. It really is the answer and a huge strength for our country. So.
And there's no creative industries policy written, which we are in the process of helping write, because everything falls under different ministries otherwise.
Hi, my name is Devita. I am going to ask a question which just made me wonder because it's been a fabulous session and a panel. And, you guys being my friends, I thought I knew so much, but it's been genuinely enlightening about the city, about the art, about your perspective. And there's so much that a wider audience needs to know about what you guys are doing, which made me wonder at the end of the day, as a larger program outside with more chairs and a bigger stage, you have all these like fabulous lives or something who are entertainers. And here we actually have creators, we actually have curators, we have people who have that intellectual depth. What do we as a country need to do to sort of make our public knowledge of art and entertainment, whatever you call it, so much more intellectual? Because we have so much more to offer than being excited by some vapid life or wife or whatever it is.
Okay, I have
We
to
will
say,
not take
please
names, though,
don't.
just-
Please don't. I binge watched Fabulous Lives, and I also don't want to over intellectualize anything because I think ultimately we're all doing what we want to do. Water finds its own level. So they want to wear those dresses and do that, and I'm happy to watch them. And I want to do what I'm doing, and I hope that people are happy to watch that. So I think that. It's so much more about just dialoguing and giving people space, letting people do what they want and finding your own moment.
But tell me, don't you feel personally, like, I mean, I echo the words of the person who asked me the first question. No offense, I'm not saying their content is not great, it's entertaining. We all watch the show. But this is an art show. I would love to have more knowledge of art, everything that you said, actually reach a very wide audience. Actually have more younger people, as Amit mentioned, bridging the gap between rich and poor. Everyone interested what our country has to offer. So it's actually a question to ask them, what is it that we need to do to bring this intellectual conversation that a general person watching a YouTube channel feels connected and interested to it and talks to it with their friends than just, very generic Bollywood
Any
content.
comments, or should I close? I think the fundamental gap in the arts is not financial capital. I say it's always intellectual capital. It's arts education. That is the gap that exists, and that is the gap we all have to work towards filling, whether it's government, whether it's private, initiatives like Sarmaya, initiatives like Avid. We're doing our little baby, and Chanakya, doing our baby steps to bridge that. And that's why festivals and fairs like Art Mumbai have these speakers forums to create that dialogue, to create that asking questions is part of education. At least we're all thinking about it, and hopefully it will come up with some solutions and next steps. But thank you guys for being here in such big numbers. I think, it's a very difficult time post lunch that Zoya gave us. I thought she was spiting me for that. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to my wonderful panel. Mumbai is a city close to all our hearts. As I was mentioning, we've all chosen to live here. I moved back from New York to make this my home. Everybody thought something was wrong with me. That's to be decided yet. But it's a city with a heart. It's a city with a pulse. It supports the creative industry, the artists, and for generations, it has been a source of inspiration and the gateway to the global love that we all have. Thank you all for being here and for being a nice audience. Thank you, Zoya.